Hello everyone, Nick the DM here with more Dungeons & Dragons lore. This video is the conclusion to my mini-series on all things demon. And, funnily enough, this was the first video I started working on for the series. I decided that, before I continue more with videos on individual demon lords, I should cover what a demon lord is. But then I thought, maybe I should cover what demons are in general. And of course, I couldn't talk about demons without first covering fiends. So, after close to 9 months of research and making what can only be called video essays on demons, I bring to you my video on demon lords. I normally say this at the end of the video, but this is a special video, so if you like this topic and enjoy these D&D lore delves, please consider subscribing to support the channel. Now, without further ado, allow me to tell you about demon lords. Demon lords are the most powerful of the demons, unique entities that can command entire layers of the abyss and function almost as deities in their own rights. Demon lords have been around since original D&D Eldritch Wizardry in 1976 and have gone through a number of updates since then. The Abyss is a vast wound in the cosmic order, a bottomless pit swarming with creatures that exist only to rend and destroy. Individual demons of great power and determination bend and shape the Abyss and its inhabitants to their every whim. These are the demon lords. The lords command palaces and fortresses full of lesser demons and monsters, often decorated with tortured prisoners or tormented, damned souls. The demon lords relish pain and suffering as much as they lust for power. They savor corruption and destruction, waging eternal wars with each other to gain dominance. These mighty beings imagine themselves at the center of the multiverse. Each demon lord believes that the cosmos will be theirs to command, its laws and structure twisted and warped to match the demon's ideal of perfection. The arrogance of these lords is exceeded only by their ambition. Any rational being could dismiss their goals as empty ambitions sparked by madness. But the truth is that the demon lords and their thralls are among the mightiest forces within the planes. It's possible that, if the blood war turns dramatically in their favor, the demon lords could put the rest of their catastrophic plans into motion. When it comes to the rulers of the Abyss, a number of different names are thrown around. Demon Lord, Abyssal Lord, Oberith Lord, Demon Prince, Abyssal Prince, and Prince of Demons. Demon was sometimes replaced with Abyssal in the context of these titles because certain domains and layers of the Abyss are dominated by non-demons, often deities, making them not demon lords but Abyssal lords. Advanced D&D 2nd edition is where the term Abyssal Lord is used most frequently. The main difference is between Lord and Prince. The title Prince of Demons is a big one, so we'll cover that later in the video. Original D&D Eldritch Wizardry mentioned the title Demon Prince, stating that, quote, "There are several princes, but only 2 of the greatest of these exceptional demon lords are described here," end quote. The book goes on to list and detail Orcus and Demogorgon. The title Prince was capitalized, but Demon Lords was not. Regardless of what can be inferred from this, the fact is there was no explicit difference mentioned between the 2 titles. As of 1st edition, the difference between a lord and a prince was a matter of territory. The princes had sovereignty over an entire layer of the Abyss, while a lord did not, whether because they had yet to conquer the domain or there were multiple demon lords with different territories on one layer. 2nd edition's Faces of Evil the Fiends has information given by Zanzos the Blue Slad, a planar traveler and, some would say, a scholar. Some say the Abyssal Princes are higher in rank than the Lords, others say they are lower. The tanar'ri change their titles faster than a prime material denizen changes their mind, based on what is most likely to garner them more power and respect. Based on the time of Zanzost's research, lords were considered higher rank than the princes. The Abyssal Princes are mighty fiends, always tanar'ri, never outsiders, who gather on the plane of infinite portals, the topmost layer of the Abyss. The princes live there in huge fortresses and command massive armies. They give themselves big, fancy titles and try to kill all other princes so they can rise higher in the eyes of the masses. These princes gather on the first layer of the Abyss because they are looking to find a layer they can wrestle into submission, a place they can call their own and rule from as they grab more and more strength. Sometimes these princes will send scouting parties down the conduits that perforate the plane of infinite portals in search of layers that are unclaimed and ripe for conquest. The true difference between an Abyssal Prince and an Abyssal Lord is this: a prince controls a citadel and a stretch of land on the plane of infinite portals. A lord actually controls an entire layer, watching it respond to their wishes almost like a deity's realm responds to a deity. Though an Abyssal Lord is not necessarily a power, not yet at least. Some truly are gods, but most are just dreamers. But in the end, the shifting titles of the rulers of the Abyss in 2nd edition can be summarized with this quote from graz'zt. Quote, "Being a prince in the Abyss does not really mean much. It is the lords who hold the real power." Oops, everything graz'zt just said might be wrong. It depends on what day it is. End quote. The titles are changed yet again in 3rd edition's Book of Vile Darkness, subjected to the ever-changing chaos of the Abyss. As of 3rd edition, some demon lords have risen above the other demon lords and call themselves demon princes. However, these are self-proclaimed titles. There are no actual qualifications. The Abyss is far too chaotic to develop rigid standards. 3.5e's Fiendish Codex 1, Hordes of the Abyss, actually maintains that same thinking. The title of Demon Prince, adopted by some demon lords, is meaningless in a realm as infinite and chaotic as the Abyss. It is this chaos and lack of organization and hierarchy that separates the demon lords from the archdevils, who have a rigid pecking order, each paying fealty to those in more powerful positions. 3.5e is also when we first hear of the Oberith Lords. This was a title granted to the strongest of the Oberith demons long ago in the Age Before Ages. And, if you recall from my Oberith video, at that time almost all Oberiths stayed on the first layer of the Abyss in iron fortresses and ruled over their own territories. Though in future editions an Oberith that was a lord was simply called a demon lord. From that point on, the titles of Demon Lord and Demon Prince have been used interchangeably, 5th edition using Demon Lord in the Monster Manual and Demon Prince in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, usually to refer to the same group or same entities. In reality, these titles have always meant very little, used either to belittle a Demon Lord incapable or unwilling to control an entire layer of the Abyss, or giving an unnecessary ego boost to a self-titled Demon Prince. We've covered the weird titles of the Lords of the Abyss, but what does it really mean to be a Demon Lord? Above even the true tanar'ri sit the Demon Lords, great creatures horrifying in their wickedness and power. These beings have left behind the classifications of type and have achieved notorious individuality. Each lord is truly one of a kind. While demons in general can vary from the standard abilities and forms typical for one of their type, the demon lords especially have many unusual characteristics and extraordinary abilities. While certain demon lords may resemble other types of demons, each is a unique entity with its own interests, strengths, and weaknesses. Though in the Abyss, the stronger and smarter rule those with less of those qualities, so one can be certain that the demon lords are stronger and smarter than nearly all other demons. Each Abyssal Lord generally rules over a layer of the Abyss, though some may not, as we've just discussed. especially since they often war with one another over territory, sometimes trying to take a lair from another lord, and other times demon lords will fight over a lair they both claim as their own, while both ruling separate dominions of that lair. Their talent for leadership, control, and planning sets these lords apart from their followers. Though they still rage in battle, they often have better control over how they direct their urge for destruction than that of lesser demons. When they do vent their anger, the sight is awesome to behold. Sometimes an Abyssal Lord need not even be a demon at all. As I briefly mentioned earlier, some layers and domains of the Abyss are controlled by evil entities foreign to the Abyss, most commonly deities. Erdlen of the Gnomes, the Great Mother of the Beholders, and Lolth, Goddess of the Drow, were all divine beings that claimed a portion of the Abyss as their own, and were called Abyssal Lords, though in recent editions and certain sources, outsiders are considered true demon lords. It seems as though the Abyss rewards those outsiders that conquer any of its infinite layers, Lolth being the most well-known as having been originally an elven deity, but now is accepted fully as a demon lord in addition to her divine status among the Drow. Some sources also claim the Dark Prince graz'zt originated from some other plane before stealing his abyssal title from a long-forgotten demon lord, though many stories about graz'zt are constantly making their rounds in the planes. While this may be confusing, don't worry. I'll be covering some information shortly on what allows a creature to become a demon lord. Several theories exist about which principles dictate who can gain a demon lord's power, or if no such principles exist, how that power might be seized. But just to be safe, if a creature is powerful enough to survive in the Abyss and claim even a portion of the land there as its own, maybe don't question the legitimacy of its title to its face. It's not said whether it's any easier for a tanar'ri or outside force to claim a layer of the Abyss, and the powers of the Abyss don't seem to care. There do not seem to be any particular bad feelings between the two kinds of lords, not any more than the powerful beings of chaos and evil feel towards each other by default. They all hate each other, and will all work with and fight one another as they see fit, without worrying about who comes from where. The only thing is, an Abyssal Lord's origin may make it easier for other lords to come up with an excuse to band together against them, but they don't really need excuses. The Abyssal Lords do what they want anyways. The Lords of the Abyss have power nearing that of the deities. The lords rank below actual deities in their destructive capability, but they're practically immeasurable when compared to ordinary demons. They rule their lairs, with all sorts of powers to play with and massive armies to order around. Theirs are the whims by which the Abyss is run, if not tamed. The lords impose their personal chaos on the chaos of the plane to make it seem more orderly and under their control, but beneath it all, there is just more chaos. The number of Abyssal Lords is not infinite, which is apparent if you've seen my videos listing every single Demon Lord. Despite the seemingly infinite, or at least very numerous, layers of the Abyss, not every layer has a ruler, but most do. Some layers even have multiple so-called rulers constantly fighting. So there are more demon lords than anyone would know what to do with. According to Graz'zt, as written in Faces of Evil the Fiends, quote, "If they could ever join forces long enough to assault their enemies, they would surely win. Even the Sladai, even the gods, would be hard-pressed to stand against them. But this will never happen. The Abyssal Lords spend too much time fighting each other. Before they can turn their attentions to the other planes, they must first subdue their own. Before they do that, they must eliminate their rivals." End quote. This opinion is shared by the 4th edition Demonomicon, a passage there quoted as, quote, "If the Demon Lords were ever to join forces, the deities and other immortals of the Astral Sea might not stand against the onslaught. Such an alliance is unthinkable, and the Lords of the Abyss spend as much time fighting each other as they do countering outside threats." End quote. There is also a passage presented in the 4th edition Demonomicon which says, according to legend, when the number of demon lords reach a specific unknown number, their wars will intensify to such a point that only one demon lord will survive. That master demon lord will then become one with the Abyss, the will and power of that entire realm, every layer, manifested within a single entity. The power that entity might reach remains a matter of dark speculation. Though, of course, this is just a legend with no other leads or sources. Given the nature of rumors that come from the lower planes, it is likely just that, a rumor. Speaking of rivals and wars, some of the Lords of the Abyss hate the Beatezu more than the most hell-bent Baelor. These lords throw their armies and resources into the blood war. Others only take an active role in the war because they see it as a ticket to gaining even more power in the Abyss. Yet others don't focus on the blood war at all, as they struggle just to hold on to their power and realm. But how are demon lords created? What allows a demon to ascend to such a position? Well, there are a number of ways. Starting with the Ascension described in the Planes of Chaos box set from Advanced D&D 2nd edition. The tanar'ri are a mutable race, constantly changing to become more powerful. It's sometimes said that only 1 in 1,000 mains becomes a dretch, and 1 of 1,000 dretches becomes an ammonite. Though this isn't a strict linear order of transformation, it's just an example. But in time, a truly vile demon can hope to transform itself into a lesser, greater, and then a true tanar'ri, and beyond that, dream of becoming a demon lord. And some demon lords prove that the lords may advance even further, becoming deities, lords of entire layers, and even be worshipped by insane cults on the material plane. The tanar'ri transform themselves into ever more powerful forms, like snakes shedding their skins. It takes eons of constant corruption, betrayal, and destruction. It takes both surviving victories and defeats in the battles of the Blood War, and the battles of the Abyss itself. And it takes the amassing of followers. The most important of all are followers on the prime material plane. According to Advanced D&D 2nd edition Faces of Evil the Fiends, some Abyssal Lords got where they are because they had mighty tanar'ri parents. As mentioned in the tanar'ri video, when 2 tanar'ri mate, they produce offspring of that same type as the parents, or one ranking somewhere between the parents if the mated pair has different forms. A tanar'ri born into the greater or true tanar'ri category clearly has an advantage in gaining power, as they started ahead of most. Also mentioned is the fact that some Abyssal Lords got where they are because of a strange conjunction of Abyssal forces, whether that be completely random or done by the will of the Abyss itself. It is also said that to become a true Lord, an entity must control a plane, but that's more complicated than it sounds. Mareschalk, the Yuan-Ti power, and Ramenos, the god of the Bullywugs, both live in Smaragd, the 74th layer of the Abyss. And Kali, the human goddess, named the entire 643rd layer for her home there, the Cavern of the Skull. Does this make Kali the lord of that layer? Most people say yes. It seems some gods are considered lords of a layer just because they live there. The strongest being on a layer can say that they are lord, but being an Abyssal Lord takes more than just finding empty ground and marching over it with an army. Force is not enough. Anyone who wants to be an Abyssal Lord must do 2 things: drive the natives of the layer into submission, and shape the land itself to fit the Lord's will and vision. That is where most princes fail. Just a reminder that in 2nd edition, demon princes are powerful unique demons that don't yet control an entire layer. They don't have enough strength of mind to dominate a whole layer. But what makes this so difficult? Well, just like the whole of the Abyss, the tanar'ri say that the Abyssal layers are sentient, not smart, just aware. The layers have primal urges and abilities. They respond to their masters and can swallow unworthy fools whole. So, if a prince tries to take over a lair but does not have enough force of will, they get absorbed into the land itself. This is the price of failure in the Abyss, which also means that each prince who tries to seize control of the lair and fails becomes a part of the land's power, which is then used to resist the next prince. It's always been said that there are some layers of the Abyss even the tanar'ri fear. Well, these are those layers, ones full of arrogant fools who tried to rule them and failed. Abyssal princes and other challengers are not the only ones who risk going into the ground. An abyssal lord, too, can melt into their own lair if they are not careful. When that happens, the lord becomes an extension of the lair they have crafted. They turn into the living embodiment of the land itself. Taking on a shell of a body starts to become a chore. This is a dangerous time for the demon. If the lord discorporates much further, they will be gone. Then the lair will be ready for a new master to try their hand at ruling. There are even some alternate histories that propose that the Yugoloths who drove the mutated larva into Beator and the Abyss became the Lords of Nine and the Princes of the Abyss themselves, drawing their power from the awe of the larva beneath them. Others suggest that the reclusive Bernoloths created these positions of power to watch over the development of the new races more closely. Later records say that some of the earliest archfiends were disposed by Beatezu or tanar'ri who had gained enough power to challenge their rulers and win. After that, the lords and princes set up hierarchies of forms and powers to make sure that ambitious fiends had to spend their time and efforts struggling for dominance with one another. That way, the fiends have much slimmer chances of rising enough in rank to actually take on the lords and princes. Though there is little information regarding these stories, and one could infer that it's likely these came either from the Book of Derelict Magics, like the other Yugoloth stories, or were spread by the Yugoloths themselves, as they seem similar or related to the Yugoloth story of them creating the demons and devils. 3.5e simply states that demon lords are the most powerful demons that follow the path of accumulating political influence and magical power within the context of the Abyss itself. They do this by subverting layers to their wills and attracting followers on the material plane, who then manifest on that demon lord's lair as petitioner servants when their souls reach the Abyss after death. 4th edition's version of demonic ascension was slightly different than that of earlier editions. Demons in 4th edition ascended by gathering soul energy, either by consuming soul larvae, killing creatures with souls, acquiring mortal thralls, or binding lesser demons into their service, all of which we talked about in the Complete Guide to Demons video. The more souls a demon consumed, the more attuned to the Abyss it became, and the more control it had over the other denizens of the plane. Once a demon had accumulated enough soul energy, it could adopt a new form and more powerful abilities. Eventually, soul energy grants a demon enough power to control its own abyssal realm. This full ascension could take anywhere from centuries to uncounted eons, depending on the drive and the methods of the demon in question. When this process is complete, a demon could take on a true name and become a demon lord. Detailing this further, a demon must accomplish 4 things to become a demon lord. Number 1, complete the process of ascension. Although every demon's path of ascension is different, this typically involves a rise in level and power equivalent to or greater than that of a Balor. Number 2, discover its true name. Number 3, take command of an abyssal lair. And number 4, create an aspect. Ascension we just covered: gather soul energy, ascend the ranks, and stay alive. Next is discovering the demon's true name. While different editions have different specifics when it comes to true names, the following is what comes from 4th edition. Within every being rings a sound that embodies its desires, aversion, destiny, and innermost essence. That sound, distilled into a single word or phrase spoken in the original language of the universe, becomes a true name that grants the individual access to primal magics of incalculable power. True names do not readily reveal themselves, and most creatures never learn their true names. A demon must discover its true name and perform a unique and secret ritual of naming as part of the process of becoming a demon lord. If a demon is fortunate, the underlying sentience of the abyss whispers its true name to it. Usually, however, an aspiring demon lord must learn its true name through arduous study or dangerous adventures. A demon's true name ritual exacts a further price, since a demon lord becomes vulnerable to any creature that knows or learns its true name. A demon's true name allows it to be enslaved by another demon lord, or at the very least, prevents the demon from effectively seizing its own power. A creature that speaks a demon's true name as part of the summon demon ritual can summon the demon from across the planes against its will. A true name can then be used to bind a demon or inflict unspeakable suffering upon it. Next is taking command of an abyssal lair. What truly separates a demon lord from the most powerful pretenders is control of an abyssal lair. To control a lair, a demon must bend the nature of the lair to its will, similar to the way in which a deity affects an astral domain. Though demon lords cannot shape reality to the extent that deities can. A demon lord changes the landscape of its lair, causes palaces to rise or crumble, and mutates the lair's denizens. Multiple demon lords can occupy a single lair, each shaping a local area of the lair as they fight for overall control. A prime example of this is Juoblex and Zugdmoy fighting over the 222nd layer of the Abyss, Shadokla. A prospective lord that attempts to control a layer and fails is typically destroyed in the process. For its failure, it is absorbed into the layer, becoming part of the power that will someday resist attempts at control by other would-be demon lords. For this reason, a vast number of abyssal layers remain unclaimed, their resistance to control so great that even the most powerful demon lords fear to linger there. And finally, creating an aspect. A demon lord that wants to interact with creatures outside of the abyss most often sends an aspect to carry out its missions and enforce its will. An aspect is a physical embodiment of a portion of the demon's life force, created to serve as a proxy on another plane. But I'll leave it at that for now, as there is a lot more to talk about in regards to aspects that I'll mention in a few minutes when we talk about demon lord abilities. 5th edition also speaks on demonic ascension. In Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, it's said that should a demon survive for centuries, it accumulates changes to its form due to interaction with the energies of the abyss. These enduring demons often become demon lords. However, there are other methods of ascension to the status of demon lord. Spontaneous ascension is one of those. As is the nature of chaos, anything is possible, including spontaneous demonic ascension. In times when the abyss needs a new demon lord, it simply creates one, instantly advancing a lesser demon to that highest rank. Even lowly demons among the lesser tiers in the chaos that can be called the demonic hierarchy can ascend in this fashion. As one may imagine, this causes no end of consternation among the existing demon lords. When a demon suddenly rises to the peak of power, only the speaking of a true name is necessary to complete the demon's transformation into a demon lord. The demon lord Turglas was reported to have ascended this way. In 5th edition, it's said that the Abyss may also reward demons of particular ruthlessness and ingenuity with a dark blessing, transforming them into unique fiends whose power can rival the gods. Which we can infer to mean the Abyss can either be random or take notice of certain demons. And according to Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, some demon lords seem to emerge from the planar stuff of the Abyss itself. Furthermore, 4th edition states that some demon lords, Demogorgon, Baphomet, and Orcus, according to 4th edition lore, were once primordials that were reshaped into the likeness of pure destructive evil by their time in the Abyss. Another form of Ascension is progression by mortal host. This comes from 4th edition and involves a cacodemon possessing a host, which I talked about in my demonic possession video. In that video, I said I would talk about progression by mortal host in the Demon Lord video, so here we are. Under certain circumstances, a mortal host can provide a significant shortcut for demonic ascension. The soul of a powerful demon slain in battle can persist at the site of its destruction for some time as a cacodemon. The disembodied spirit of a cacodemon has no consciousness, but it possesses a singular need to possess a living creature or object. Although mortal creatures are typically weak and fragile compared to the creatures of the Abyss, heroic mortals have an uncanny aptitude for achieving greatness over a short period of time. When a cacodemon possesses a mortal hero, the demon-possessed creature is overcome by the single-minded lust for power of its demonic possessor. As the cacodemon cultivates and slowly devours the soul of its host, it gains as much power as if it had consumed impossibly vast quantities of soul larvae. When no vestige of a possessed body's original soul remains, the Abyss sometimes transforms animus and body into a true demon. Demonologists cite the appearance and rapid ascension of the demon lord Kostichi as an example of progression by mortal host in 4th edition, but that story is better left for a video on Kostichi. And still yet, some demon lords seem to have been in existence since the dawn of time, with no known origin. I guess it's fitting that the Abyss, like the demons that dwell among its layers, is too chaotic and unpredictable to choose just one method, even random selection. That is the nature of demons, after all. Chaotic to the point where they can act logically to switch up the chaos, thereby creating more chaos. But what does becoming a demon lord actually do for the demon? Sure, there's the prestige, notoriety, worship, and followers, but what about special powers? Well, the powers demon lords possess have varied throughout the editions, so let's take a look at them now. The first instance of a general guideline for demon lord abilities was presented in 3.5e's Book of Vile Darkness. Before that, demon lords had the standard features all demons had, and then each one had additional powers unique to them, in addition to pretty decent magic resistance at minimum, high intelligence, lots of hit points, and a high, or I guess it would be low in earlier editions with negative armor classes and such, armor classes. Then, in Dragon Magazine issue 359, we were given a template to create demon lords in 3.5e. Other editions didn't really have generalized stats or abilities for demon lords as a whole, but if anything comes up consistently, I will mention it. As of Dragon Magazine issue 359, a demon lord had their creature type changed to outsider, and they gained the chaotic and evil subtypes, regardless of what they were beforehand. All demon lords are one of 3 known demonic subtypes, Lumara, Oberith, or Tanar'ri, and have the abilities and traits for that subtype. This is what was said in the magazine, but there is a possibility that a demon lord of the other demon subtypes, as noted in the Complete Guide to Demons video, exists or has yet to be found, so if I find one, I'll be sure to bring this up. The creature retained all its abilities granted by its former class levels, including spellcasting, prior to becoming a demon lord, but its saving throws, attacks, and some abilities may become more potent as they needed to be recalculated. When it comes to protection, a demon lord's armor class may vary, but they are usually fairly hard to hit and durable, so they'll normally receive a natural armor bonus, or in the rare case, a deflection bonus, which are magical enhancements, as of 3.5e. For spell-like abilities, in 3.5e, all Demon Lords have the following spell-like abilities in addition to any the base creature possessed. At will, they knew Astral Projection, Blasphemy or Word of Chaos for Oberiths, Desecrate, Detect Good, Detect Law, Greater Dispel Magic, Greater Teleport, Plane Shift, Shape Change, Telekinesis, Unhallow, Unholy Aura or Cloak of Chaos for Oberiths, and Unholy Blight or Chaos Hammer for Oberiths. 3 times per day, the Demon Lords could use any one symbol from the symbol spell. Each Demon Lord also had additional spell-like abilities specific to the demon's theme. Specifically, 2 additional at-will spell-like abilities, 2 additional 3 per day abilities, and 2 additional once per day abilities, according to the template in 3.5e. A Demon Lord's base caster level for spell-like abilities ranged from caster level 20 to 25th, based on the Demon Lord's challenge rating, starting at caster level 20 and going up 1 level for every 3 challenge ratings. The Demon Lord goes beyond challenge rating 18, to a maximum of caster level 25th at CR 33. Alternatively, Fiendish Codex 1, Hordes of the Abyss, suggested increasing the caster level by 1 for every 2 hit dice the Demon Lord gained, but this came with an explicit warning that it could possibly grossly overpower certain abilities. Basically, all of this just means that Demon Lords were high-level spellcasters. 5th edition Demon Lords also have innate spellcasting, but there isn't really any consistency to what spells they have. And Advanced D&D 1st Edition Lords had a large amount of psionic ability points to use for psionics. So all in all, they normally have some innate ability to cast spells or spell-like effects, beyond any actual spellcasting knowledge they possess. Special qualities. A Demon Lord had all the special qualities of its demonic subtype. In addition, all Demon Lords possessed the following special qualities in addition to any the base creature had. Damage reduction. As of 3rd edition, many Demon Lords had damage reduction of 15, which was surpassed by +6 or better weapons, or a damage reduction of 20, which was ignored by +7 or greater weapons. Non-artifact weapons could not overcome this damage reduction, but high-level characters wielding +5 greatswords as of 3rd edition were certainly able to deal more than 15 or 20 points of damage within a single attack, at least in 3rd edition. So Demon Lords weren't untouchable. In 3.5e, all Demon Lords have a damage resistance of 20, which is negated by Cold Iron, Epic, and Good weapons, reducing physical damage by 20 unless the weapon had all 3 of the appropriate requirements. So a weapon that was made of Cold Iron and Good aligned, but not Epic, still had its damage reduced. And 5th edition Demon Lords consistently had resistance to cold, fire, and lightning, and immunity to poison and non-magical bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. Because they have such high damage reduction, a Demon Lord's natural weapons can overcome the damage reduction of lesser beings or immunity with things such as the Stone Skin spell in earlier editions. This remained true in 5th edition, with Demon Lords having the Magic Weapons ability, making any of their attacks magical for the purposes of overcoming immunities and resistance. Speaking of resistance, spell resistance. In 3.5e, a Demon Lord's spell resistance was equal to its challenge rating plus 13, meaning a caster had to roll over that number to get a spell to affect the Demon Lord at all, making them able to bypass most spells, especially those cast by low-level spellcasters. 5th edition Demon Lords have the Magic Resistance ability, giving them advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects. In 3.5e, all Demon Lords had telepathy of 300 feet, except for Oberith Lords, which only had 100 feet of telepathy. 5th edition Demon Lords can speak all languages and have telepathy out to a range of 120 feet. Demon Lords were significantly stronger than nearly any other type of demon. The 3.5e template said to give the base creature the following increases when turning it into a Demon Lord: plus 6 to Strength, plus 4 to Dexterity, plus 6 to Constitution, plus 2 to Intelligence, plus 4 to Wisdom, and plus 6 to Charisma. And according to the Fiendish Codex 1, Hordes of the Abyss, should a Demon Lord advance in power, it gains a plus 2 to each ability score for every 5 hit dice it gained. Demon Lords also always had Dark Speech as one of their feats granted in 3.5e. Dark Speech was a language of the Dark Gods that most fiends avoided speaking for fear of being consumed by it. In addition to being a language, the Dark Speech feat allowed a creature to speak the language to bring loathing and fear to others, help cast evil spells, help create evil items, and to weaken physical objects, though this often caused the speaker of the Dark Speech to take charisma damage. The Demonomicon of Igwilv column for 3.5e sets the challenge ratings for Demon Lords at 24 to 33. Using this scale, only the reigning Prince of Demons, currently Demogorgon, should be challenge rating 33. Very few should be above challenge rating 30, and no Demon Lord should be less powerful than challenge rating 22, which I find specifically funny, considering there are some Demon Lords with a much lower challenge rating, such as Shami Amure with a challenge rating of 19. The vast majority of Demon Lords are challenge rating 26 to 29 as of 3.5e. Speaking of challenge ratings, 4th edition Demon Lords all had a level and experience value greater than Ancient Gold and Red Dragons. There weren't any specific challenge ratings per se in 4th edition, it was more a level and XP system based on whatever classification they were given in terms of monster class, but just take my word for it, they were stronger on average than any Ancient Gold or Ancient Red Dragon. As of 5th edition, Demon Lords have stats ranging between challenge rating 23 and challenge rating 26. And even within the same edition, Demon Lords have varied in challenge rating. This could be because of a number of factors. Worship, the destruction of an aspect temporarily weakening a lord, and other such occurrences can change the power of a Demon Lord, for better or worse. Of course, all of these abilities are just what were considered standard for Demon Lords in their respective editions, and all Demon Lords can be expected to have abilities, resistances, and immunities unique to them. Power and control. The greatest sign of a Demon Lord's power is its ability to reshape an abyssal realm. The Abyss is a puzzle to those who study demons, and an attraction for those who seek power. It isn't as purely chaotic as Limbo, nor as pliable, and yet Demon Lords can shape its essence by their subconscious will. A layer of the Abyss controlled by a Demon Lord becomes a twisted reflection of that fiend's vile personality, and Demon Lords seldom leave their realms for fear of allowing another creature to reshape and seize it. As mentioned earlier, Demon Lords could also create aspects. An aspect is a physical embodiment of a fragment of a Demon Lord's life force, created to serve as a proxy on another plane without placing the Demon Lord in any actual danger. The use of aspects allows a Demon Lord to conduct business in multiple places simultaneously without leaving its home lair undefended. These manifestations take the form of the Demon Lord they come from, called the Original. The Original is so great that this shred of life force is actually able to take shape as a living creature, or sometimes an undead creature for certain beings like Vecna, but that's irrelevant for Demon Lords. Though sometimes an aspect can take on a different form or appearance. The specifics of this isn't explained really in any edition too much, but examples are frequently given throughout the editions, but that can be saved for another video specifically on aspects. Aspects tend to be considerably weaker than the originals, a pale shadow in comparison to the might of the true being. though a pale shadow of such an entity is still a considerable threat on its own. Aspects usually manifest in demonic temples where the demon lord is worshipped, though rarely, aspects spontaneously arise on the planes where their originals reside, kind of like a naturally occurring echo of the original's powerful presence. More often, these aspects are called forth by magic of some kind. Usually, these aspects are short-lived, fading back into non-existence within a day. The life force that manifested as the aspect then either returns to the original, dissipates, or lurks in the area, ready to manifest as an aspect again if the conditions are right. While aspects are spiritual in origin rather than biological, they manifest as actual living creatures with consciousness, intelligence, and will. They are notoriously single-minded and unwilling to communicate. They may help mortals, but only because they want to, not because they were asked. Aspects disdain mortals. They do not bother commanding troops, even those that would follow them loyally, and they aren't inclined to even listen to the orders of any but the best commanders. Still, they are known to find common cause with like-minded warbands and to fight alongside them. Vile servants of archfiends and evil deities sometimes call forth aspects of their unholy masters to take part in unspeakable rituals. The less said about these rites, the better. Also, aspects could sometimes be called by use of the planar ally or planar binding spells. Or, in the case of more powerful aspects, greater planar ally or greater planar binding would be necessary. Aspects of archfiends, like demon lords, are the same size as the original or smaller, though it is rare to see an aspect smaller than medium. If the original has a signature weapon, the aspect may have a similar weapon, albeit a much weaker version, just as the aspect is a weaker version of the original. Such a weapon or other item loses its magical properties when separated from its aspect. Unlike the avatars deities often created, aspects are not extensions of the original. The original can't see through the aspect's eyes and doesn't know what the aspect learns. According to deities and demigods, only deities have the ability to produce avatars. Destroying an aspect sometimes weakens the original by dissipating the aspect's life force and preventing it from being reabsorbed into the original. But beyond that, hurting the aspect does not harm the original. An aspect is an archfiend's power coalesced into a single point. Typically, this power can't coalesce in two nearby points. Thus, aspects of a specific original are almost always found alone. Sometimes, spellcasters or creatures wielding powerful magical items can force two aspects of the same original into the same area. These aspects are likely to attack each other. The proximity of another aspect of the same original apparently causes an aspect great distress. As for the actual power of these aspects, as mentioned earlier, they are significantly weaker. How much so? Well, in 3.5e, Orcus had a challenge rating of 22, whereas his aspect had a challenge rating of 9. Demogorgon in Fiendish Codex 1 Hordes of the Abyss is challenge rating 23, but his aspect in the Miniatures Handbook is also challenge rating 9. Though we are given an aspect of Koschiki at challenge rating 10, despite his actual challenge rating being only 21. And the Demon Lord Juoblex, who has a challenge rating of 19, had an aspect with a challenge rating of 8. So there's not specifically any consistency, and these are probably just specific aspects and are likely to range in power whenever a Demon Lord summons one. And while 4th edition's monster leveling system was unique in adding roles, making levels for different roles worth different experience points, by comparing the strict experience granted by an aspect of graz'zt to graz'zt himself, we can calculate that the aspect is worth roughly 1/11 of the original, so a significant power deduction compared to the original. If a lord wanted to take a more direct approach to an issue on another plane, 3.5e's Fiendish Codex 1, Hordes of the Abyss, says that demon lords can project physical manifestations onto the astral plane, and from there infiltrate other planes without placing themselves in danger of being slain. Of course, this requires the lord's full attention and would likely be saved for truly important issues, otherwise it's not worth the demon lord's time. Death. Fiendish Codex 1, Hordes of the Abyss, also tells us that a demon lord that is slain is banished to its home lair for 100 years. According to the Black Scrolls of Alm, a demon lord slain on its home lair is destroyed forever, although the Demonomicon of Igwilv argues that the Abyss itself can respawn a supposedly destroyed demon lord for reasons that are unfathomable. 5th edition simply states that, like all demons, a demon lord destroyed on another plane has its essence returned to the Abyss, where it reforms a new body, and one that dies on the Abyss is permanently destroyed. There were no specifics given as to how long a demon lord was banished for. There are, of course, exceptions to this. There are numerous cases of demon lords and all kinds of archfiends that have reformed after they were thought destroyed by any number of ways, through an aspect still existing for them to gain power, demonic amulets, the Abyss spontaneously bringing them back, and there are probably a number of other cases specific to individual lords that I'm, as of yet, unaware of. And of course, one thing that I did emphasize, but I do want to also additionally point out, according to the Black Scrolls of Alm, a demon lord had to be slain on its home lair to be destroyed forever, not just anywhere on the Abyss. So that is something that's slightly different from most explanations given. Though, of course, this is probably also unique to demon lords, and maybe there are some that have this specific quality to them. But who really knows? The Abyss is chaos and all. Demon cults. While the demons may fight for domination among their own kind in the Abyss, the material plane is the most fertile ground for demons to acquire followers. A few demon lords have gained the attention of mortals, and while they may have a relatively small number of followers, some demon lords are worshipped in many areas and worlds of the multiverse as well as the Abyss as something akin to gods. Some mortals might turn to worship of the demon lords out of vengeance, sadism, or an affinity for dark magic. Others are lured into demonic cults through deception, then find themselves unable to leave. Cultists also recruit by kidnapping, taking victims far away from their families and indoctrinating them into the ways of darkness. Demon cults are often decentralized. Whether operating in rural communities or in the underbellies of large cities, small cells of demon cultists maintain little or no contact with others of their faith. As a result, the rituals and observances of cults dedicated to the same demon lord can vary widely from one sect to another. Though ritual sacrifice of sentient creatures is common among more than a few demon cults. Many demon cultists mask their worship of their dark lords as fealty to another deity. Some might even operate small shrines and offer healing services to their communities. These cults feign the appearance of goodwill for as long as it takes to convince their neighbors of their benign intent. Then, slowly, high-ranking and powerful civilians are brought into the cult's upper echelons and corrupted. Joining a demon cult typically binds a creature to the cult for life. Cults have little sympathy for doubters and heretics, and will root them out and slaughter them as fast as they can be discovered. These demon cultists may one day, through their sacrifices and devotion, elevate the demon lords to true godhood, a title that many of the lords have claimed at one time or another. One benefit for a cult's adoration is that a demon lord receives allies against rivals. Additionally, to show their reverence, cultists might offer sacrifices of treasure and magic items that the demons can use. Taking further advantage of that same reverence, a demon lord might send its cultists into battle to soften up an enemy before the demon enters the fray itself. Many cultists gravitate to a demon lord out of a desire for power, while others find themselves captivated by a demon's narcissism, so much so that their minds and worldviews become twisted into a pale version of their masters. Even a relatively weak demon, not just a demon lord, can demand obedience and worship from humans and other mortals through the threat of force. In turn, a fiend's magical abilities allows it to impart boons on its servants, making them more useful and better able to pursue the demon's goals in the world, which leads more mortals into worship in their desire to draw power from the bottomless evil of the abyss. Boons from demons are fickle gifts. They remain in place only as long as the demon is pleased. Accepting such a boon is a damning act that corrupts the soul and drives a person towards acts of chaos, evil, and madness. Rejecting a boon likely provokes a demon's wrath. Such boons have changed statistically over the editions, but they do many things like granting new spells, increasing ability scores, or giving a worshipper a whole new ability entirely. While normal demons are limited in the number of boons they can impart on worshippers, a number equal to their hit dice in 5th edition, demon lords have no such limits on the number of creatures that can receive their boons. To achieve true power and greatness, a demon lord requires shrines, followers, and priests, but that can be difficult. According to Advanced D&D 2nd edition, though these lords say they are as powerful and great as divine powers, they have less to offer their servants than true deities do. They can't appear as avatars to monitor and communicate with followers, and they can't offer a full range of priestly spells. Instead, in return for loyalty and worship, the Abyssal Lords offer power, demon servants, and dark knowledge. More commonly, demon lords send servant demons to serve their followers, and offer them direction along the path of darkness. Most individuals are offered dark gifts, cursed or magic items, or similar things. Followers that are true believers can gain 1st or 2nd level priest spells through their faith alone. The lords have nothing to do with this minor magic, though they will claim credit for it. If the lords find it worth it to weaken themselves for a cause, they will send their greatest proxies, those of the true tanar'ri or other demon subtypes of similar strength, to grant 3rd level spells to their priests. More powerful magic is usually beyond what an average demon lord can do. They can grant 4th level spells if they do so in person, but only the greatest Abyssal Lords, those that have actually become powers in their own right, can grant 5th through 7th level spells. Again, 2nd edition, so before anyone says anything, this is specifically in 2nd edition. However, as the demons are a race that thrive on corruption, demon lords can, and do, corrupt the followers of true deities. Most frequently, they convert priests of evil powers to their own worship through threats or promises. Once corrupted, these priests still receive their full spells from their original deity until discovered. The Abyssal Lords can hide all signs of the conversion, and if they gather enough such priests, they become powers themselves. Tanar'ri and other such demon priests prefer to serve Abyssal Lords that have ascended to godhood, Baphomet of the Minotaurs, Dread Demogorgon, Faceless Juoblex, and the Gnoll god Yenogu, among others. Demon lords that haven't attained a divine status attract followers among the lower hit die demons, who can't rise very high in priestly levels anyways, as the number of hit dice determined things like that in earlier editions. New rulers of the Abyss are constantly busy hunting portfolios and worshippers to expand their base of power, to break through the limits on their souls and become greater. According to Deities and Demigods from 3rd edition, while demon lords are powerful, they are not gods, and they cannot grant spells to clerics the way deities do. According to this source, though they are often revered by those of the same alignment, they reach no higher than divine rank 0, making them quasi-deities, which is the entry-level divine status, and does not afford them the ability to grant spells as a deity does. One example of this is Yeenagu, a demon lord revered by Gnoll clerics, but technically, according to this edition, the god Erythnol actually grants them their spells. Yeenagu simply acts as a go-between, a patron of the Gnolls and a loyal servant of Erythnol. Loyal, at least, until the chance for real godhood comes within his grasp. Though it is also said that other settings may allow these figures to grant spells. They could achieve a divine rank of 1 through 5, making them demigods, and alternatively, it could be ruled that these lords were able to grant spells as divine rank 0, but they may be limited to only a single domain, like chaos, war, etc. Now, recent editions have added the Warlock, demonstrating that entities like demon lords can grant some fairly potent spells. This may all be contradictory, but it can all still make sense. Most of the settings of Dungeons & Dragons have reasons for these changes between editions. Accidental magics, divine meddling, and cataclysmic events all change the worlds. In the Forgotten Realms, before the Time of Troubles, when AO cast the deities from the realms, deities didn't really need their worshippers to fuel their powers and their divine rank, so they often ignored them. AO changed that, and now deities are fueled and empowered by the number of worshippers they have, so they pay closer attention and are more likely to grant spells and prayer. Mystra's ban marked the changing of arcane casters being limited to only 9th level spells without special methods of bypassing the ban. The powers of deities and other great entities like demon lords and their influence on the planes change all the time, and often there are canonical lore reasons for these. Even a demon lord losing or gaining territory or followers can affect the powers they can use. Anyways, I've gone on a tangent, let's get back on task. Demon amulets. Demons are hard to get rid of permanently. They have limitless lifespans, and when destroyed outside of the Abyss, they simply reform back on their home plane. But when destroyed on the Abyss, they are destroyed forever. Demon lords are much the same in most cases. However, some of the demon lords have taken measures to prevent annihilation even while on the Abyss. One of these methods is through demon amulets. I spoke about demon amulets briefly in the Complete Guide to Demons video, but much of the information on these objects pertains specifically to the Lords of the Abyss. Demon amulets are small containers in which a demon can store its vital essence, in other words, their soul. In original D&D and Advanced D&D 1st edition, this was exclusively done among the demon lords and princes. Demon amulets cannot be detected as such an item by any magical means, and they do not appear unusual in any way. The most powerful demon princes need not carry these with them, though lesser demon lords typically needed them on or near them. The amulets both protect the soul of the lord, but simultaneously leave the demon vulnerable should some other creature gain possession of the amulet. Possession of an amulet gives the holder of the item control over the demon whose vitality it contains for upwards of a day. After that time has elapsed, the possessor no longer retains control over the demon lord, and the amulet must then be returned to the demon. Or it can be destroyed and thus condemn the prince to abyssment for a year. And the prince may only return thereafter if summoned. Using an amulet comes with great risk. Possession of one will, for all intents and purposes, double the chance of calling another demon to the wielder. and any demon not controlled by the device will immediately attack the person possessing an amulet. Furthermore, if the amulet leaves the hands of the controller, the demon lord that was being controlled would immediately attack the former controller in the most effective and devastating fashion, attempting to slay them and carry their remains off to the demon lord's own domain. On the positive side, however, if the wielder of the amulet carefully repays the demon for aid rendered, adds a considerable sum for having the audacity to dare command the lord in the first place, and then carefully restores the amulet to the demon, the lord might not bear them a grudge forever afterwards and seek to hunt them out whenever possible. Now, while the specifics of how the amulet protects the demon lord isn't covered in original D&D, Advanced D&D 1st edition at least reiterated the information and expanded on it by listing another ability of the amulet. Demons with amulets are able to magic jar once per day. No, that's not able to cast magic jar, it's just able to magic jar, full stop. That's all that was added. So, what can we infer from that? Well, that brings us to the Magic Jar spell of Advanced D&D 1st edition. The spell is shockingly similar to its 5th edition version. The caster's body enters a catatonic state, and their soul is transferred into the material of the spell, or the jar, which actually didn't have to be a container, it could be a gemstone or a jewel, but I digress. The caster could then either return to their own body or attempt to possess a creature within the range of the spell, 100 feet in 5th edition, but in Advanced D&D 1st edition the range was dictated by the spellcaster's level. This is probably why the greatest demon lords could be farther away from their amulets, while weaker demon lords needed to stay within a certain range. It was all based on the power of the spellcaster. Now, how this helps the demon lord is unclear. Perhaps the demon lord will wait until it is weak and then send its soul to the amulet to save it, but that doesn't protect its body. My best guess is that once the demon lord inhabits a body of another demon, it can use its powers to will its new form into the shape of its original, or the Abyss does it for them. Even 4th edition, while not explicitly mentioning demonic amulets from what I could find, said that most demon lords keep a portion of their essence safely stored away to prevent being permanently destroyed. 5th edition mentions the demonic amulets again in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. However, nothing much is added. The passage reiterates the facts that demon lords can store their essence in an amulet to cheat death even on the Abyss, and that one who lays claim to an amulet can command a demon lord to do as they wish, though no time limit was mentioned in this edition, I may add. But it does say that demon lords hide their amulets away and trust no one, not even their followers, with the knowledge of its location. Such a site is usually protected with intricate traps, mindless servants, and other defenses that bring no risk of subversion or betrayal. If an archdevil were ever to acquire a demonic amulet, that event could signal a tipping point in the blood war. For instance, if Asmodeus held Demogorgon's amulet, the demon lord might find itself in a position from which there is no escape. As of Advanced D&D 2nd edition, the Abyssal Lords could dispense what were known as power keys. The less powerful spell keys allowed a wielder's magic to be unaffected, or only partially affected, by any limitations of a specific plane relating to that key, as the planes sometimes caused magic to work strangely. Power keys, however, caused spells to work even better than they normally would, in whatever way the maker of the key determined. Some examples, not specific to demon lords, were causing a Cure Wounds spell to heal the maximum amount every time, or a power key granted by a deity could improve all divinations. These keys, granted by Abyssal Lords, took the form of amulets, usually small skulls, such as those of a manes, that have been shrunken with skin and hair intact. I guess that doesn't make it much of a skull, more like a whole head, but that's what the book said. These amulets contain a small portion of the Lord's personal power. Since demon lords have less power than that of deities, and have little interest in increasing anyone's power but their own, they very, very rarely dispense power keys, even to their most trusted servants. These keys granted by a lord only work within the layers that the granting lord has dominion over, or those without rulers. The powers of the Abyss, also known as the deities, grant power keys that resemble their own unholy symbols. These keys only work outside the power's realm if a specific mission to further the power's ends is undertaken. Like Abyssal Lords, the powers of the Abyss like to keep their power close at hand. And of course, any power that created a power key could take it away at any time, or even change how it works or what the requirements are. Now we get into the only truly important title, Prince of Demons. The title, Prince of Demons, has always referred to only one demon lord at a time, a contested title claimed only by the strongest of demons. For many years, Demogorgon has been the most powerful demon lord, calling himself Prince of Demons. Both Orcus and graz'zt contest this title, however. The exact story of the Prince of Demons changes between 3.5e and 4th edition, so let's take a look at both. The story of the Prince of Demons in 3.5e mostly comes from Fiendish Codex 1, Hordes of the Abyss, and Dragon Magazine issue 357. The first rulers of the Abyss were the Oberiths, and the first demon lords were the Oberith lords, the mouthpieces of the Abyss that were the strongest of the Oberiths. The most powerful of these Oberith lords and their prince was the first to rise from the primal matter of chaos and evil, Obyssal, the first prince of demons. When one of the Oberith lords, the self-styled Queen of Chaos, marched in a war upon the multiverse, her first act was to strike against the Prince of Demons. The sheer audacity of this attack is what ensured her victory. She was powerful, but she paled in comparison to the might of the first Prince of Demons. And because of Obyssal's might, no one had ever dared to attempt to attack him. Before Obyssal was able to retaliate, he was slain. However, the Queen of Chaos did not take the title for herself. She chose to bide her time until a suitable candidate emerged. Sometime after the Prince of Demons fell, mortal souls began to make their way into the Abyss. The Queen of Chaos was among the first to cultivate these souls into a new race, the tanar'ri. The first of these new demons was a twisted, deformed catastrophe of evil with boneless arms, twin simian heads, reptilian legs, and a twisted tail. A snapping, howling, and ultimately uncontrollable monster formed from the primal fears of mortal souls. The Queen of Chaos tossed this creature aside, I'm sure that won't be important later, and those that came after were less broken. Before long, the tanar'ri had grown to rival the Oberiths in variety and specialty. The most powerful among these was Miska the Wolf Spider, and when he matured to a demon lord to rival many of the Oberith lords of old, the Queen of Chaos crowned him the new Prince of Demons. I'm going to skip a little bit here on the lore of the Abyss and Miska the Wolf Spider. I'll cover these in future videos, but for now it doesn't matter for the Prince of Demons. After Miska the Wolf Spider was defeated and imprisoned, he was stripped of his title, and it went unclaimed for a time. After the Oberiths were destroyed or scattered, the new rulers of the Abyss were the tanar'ri. For many ages, the tanar'ri quarreled and argued over who would claim the title of Prince of Demons. While once Miska the Wolf Spider had been the sole Prince of Demons, now scores of evolved tanar'ri squabbled for the title. Two particularly powerful tanar'ri grew to prominence, and soon all suspected it would be either graz'zt or Orcus who would claim the prize. However, in their struggles against each other, neither demon lord saw the strange and deformed shadow approaching from the wet and forgotten depths of the abyss. In the shadow of planar wars and the rise of new races, that first, malformed accident cast aside by the Queen of Chaos had grown strong. None could withstand his power when he claimed the title Prince of Demons for his own. Dozens of the most powerful tanar'ri lords assaulted this new challenger, eager to put him down. But one after another they fell, their bodies rotting and life forces shattered. In moments, the new Prince of Demons reduced the number of tanar'ri lords by a dozen, and those who survived knew they stood in the shadow of true power. Even the mighty Orcus and graz'zt were forced to kneel, their resources spent from their wars against one another. Before them, standing in terrible glory, was the first, the primal tanar'ri, and while the demon host roared and raged, none dared raise fist or claw against the new prince. The title was claimed by Demogorgon. The story from 4th edition has numerous similarities, but also a number of differences. After Tharizdun cast the Shard of Evil, given to him by the Oberiths, into the elemental chaos, the abyss began to form. Drawn by whispers promising power and dominion over the unfolding realms of creation, the first primordials entered the abyss. The shattered realm they discovered within the vortex was thoroughly corrupted, but these creatures were unconcerned with mortality and pressed onwards, beckoned by the whispering of the abyss's evil heart. As they explored farther into the desolation, they came upon a great blood-red ocean, and knew they had reached the heart at last. Floating there in the shallows of the nascent blood sea, the Shard of Evil called out for one strong enough to step forward and claim it. The first to step forward was a petulant primordial of unbridled fury named Demogorgon. However, as Demogorgon waded into the turbulent surf, another being rose up from the darkened depths beneath the sea. The interloper Dagon challenged Demogorgon for the right to claim the shard. The mighty primordials clashed in a battle that turned the sea into a bloody storm. But as they fought, a third being crawled up from a formerly unseen pit to claim the shard as his own. Oboxob, a loathsome oberith of putrescence and filth, had become the first Prince of Demons. Despite the unparalleled power he gained as Prince of Demons, Oboxob was not the full master of that power. Like it had with Tharizdun, the shard compelled its wielder to plant the shard in the astral sea. Oboxob, suffering under the shard's powerful weight, struggled to carry it forth from the abyss and complete the purpose for which his kind had created it. However, not all demons wanted to see the shard lay waste to the astral realms. The primordials Demogorgon, Orcus, and Baphomet, already in the throes of demonic transformation, feared rightly that Oboxob's actions would grant him power over all the cosmos. They attacked the Prince of Demons before he could reach the astral sea, flinging Oboxob and the shard down again into the vortex beneath which the abyss was formed. Where Oboxob struck, the abyss was sundered, forming a deep fissure into which the sea drained away in a boiling storm. As they followed the newly created blood rift into the lightless depths, Demogorgon, Orcus, and Baphomet were finally transformed into demon lords. But as they followed the shard, they felt their power begin to wane. The whispers of the abyss suddenly silenced the deeper they went. Alarmed by this, the three quickly retreated, even as the powerful primordial Garish slipped past them, hoping to claim their prize. Garish was never seen again. And ever since that day, the demon lords have feared to seek the Shard of Evil within the Blood Rift's endless depths. In time, more pits began to appear across the arid surface of the abyss. Exploration of these chasms whisked creatures through extra-dimensional conduits to uncharted reaches of that realm. The malevolent maelstrom that had formed the Abyss was growing as the seed of evil burrowed deeper and deeper into the primal foundations of the elemental chaos. Within these new layers, the demon lords established their mighty domains, bending the very fabric of the Abyss to their indomitable will. Tharizdun attempted to enslave Orcus, Demogorgon, and the other demons, but they proved too strong. Rather than risking defeat by taking on the task himself, Tharizdun sought to gather an army to swarm the Abyss in an attempt to claim the Shard of Evil. Chief among his lieutenants was a powerful primordial named Miska the Wolf Spider. After Tharizdun was imprisoned, his armies were scattered but not defeated. Miska and the princes of elemental evil marshaled the host and fought on. The armies of the, at the time, Prince of Demons Obaxab were defending the portals of the first layer of the Abyss against Miska the Wolf Spider and his forces. Miska and his armies cornered the weakened Prince of Demons in the end, and were about to gain access to a portal that Miska believed would lead them to the Shard of Evil, when suddenly the Queen of Chaos struck. She slew Obaxab, dethroning the Prince of Demons even as she offered his reign to Miska. Having long feared that Tharizdun would never be freed, Miska was already succumbing to the call of the Abyss even before the Queen of Chaos's offer. He thus gave his allegiance to the Queen of Chaos in exchange for her aid in destroying the gods of the Astral Sea. The alliance between the Queen of Chaos and Miska the Wolf Spider began a climactic epoch of the Dawn War. Until an exarch of Moradin and 7 angels of Bahamut, known as the Wind Dukes of Akaw, worked in secret with Torzak Belgurn, the Soulforge of Moradin, to craft the Rod of Law. They used the Rod of Law to strike down Miska the Wolf Spider, then banished the Prince of Demons to an unknown plane. With the forces of the Queen of Chaos in retreat and the demons that served her scattered or dying, Demogorgon chose to act. The Oberiths retreated into hiding when the Queen of Chaos fell. Unable to be targeted by the demon lords who saw their power as a threat due to their foresight in keeping their identities and nature a secret, they were forced to watch in rage as Demogorgon asserted his claim as Prince of Demons. And those are the stories and origins of the title Prince of Demons, from 2 different editions. While the specifics are different, the basic point is the title passed from Obaxab to Miska after the Queen of Chaos slew the first prince, and then to Demogorgon as the Oberiths fell from power. But there is one more thing I absolutely have to mention in regards to the title of Prince of Demons, and that is how to claim it for yourself. Dungeon Magazine issue 150 presents the final installment in the Savage Tide Adventure Path, this final installment called Prince of Demons. In the conclusion of this adventure, one of the many possible endings involves a scenario in which the current Prince of Demons, Demogorgon, is defeated. Should Demogorgon be struck down, a nimbus forms around his heads, revealing 2 crowns of dark energy, which then merge into one as Demogorgon falls. The dying roar of the defeated Prince of Demons echoes throughout all of Wat Dagon and into the Gaping Maw and the Shadow Sea. The roar serves as a beacon for all those who lust for power, causing them all to become instantly aware of Demogorgon's fall. And those that see the crown-like emanation realize that it is the right of mastery over the entire layer, and would allow the one who claims it to possess the title of Prince of Demons. Claiming the title is not as easy as simply touching the shadowy crown. An attempt to claim the title is a contest that requires the creatures to assert their force of will. In other words, they need to make a charisma check. Any nearby creatures that wish to claim the title at the time the shadowy crown forms can make this check. The range isn't specified, but the distance doesn't seem to extend further than Gaping Maw or the Shadow Sea, as only a select few powerful creatures are considered for this contest in the adventure, and only those that are in attendance at the time. The one who struck the killing blow on Demogorgon gains a significant bonus to this check, plus 15 for reference, and any creature with a blood relation to Demogorgon gets a plus 5. Keep in mind that this was for 3.5e and bonuses were often much higher than other editions. And claiming the title does seem very situational, as it was specifically said that creatures that did not participate in any meaningful way in the Savage Tide or War of the Gaping Maw suffered a -10 penalty to this check. The adventure specifically mentions that even the PCs are able to join this contest, so it's not specific to demons. In fact, attempting to claim the title, if only to keep such power from a powerful fiend such as Orcus or another lord, is seen as a noble reason to sacrifice one's soul, which is essentially what taking on the mantle of Prince of Demons amounts to according to the adventure. The winner of the contest becomes the new ruler of Gaping Maw, gaining control over the morphic characteristics of the plane, as well as gaining the tanar'ri subtype if the creature is not already one. The new Prince of Demons alignment shifts to either a chaotic or evil alignment. The choice is up to the new prince, but it must be one of those. While this is a great achievement and reward, it comes with many risks. One such risk comes from the Abyss itself. Demogorgon's nature was partially the result of the will of the Abyss, as manifested through Gaping Maw. Each month the new Prince of Demons rules the lair, they must succeed on a DC 30 will save to avoid succumbing to a form of madness that implants within them conflicting dual personalities that eventually result in the growth of a second head. Only beings who were already demon lords escape this fate. Then there is the fact that claiming the title of Prince of Demons makes the new prince many new enemies. Should a mortal or player character take the title, Graz'zt and Orcus consider this new prince weak and untested, resulting in a relentless war being waged on Gaping Maw. The new prince may have to seek alliances with other demon lords in order to keep their prize. These allies likely require perilous and dangerous deeds by the new prince before they pledge their aid. Another such enemy is Abyssal, the first Prince of Demons, and his potential role is detailed in the epic level adventure Hook, The Return of Abyssal. Regardless of who claims the mantle of Prince of Demons, it's likely that the events leading up to it will leave them weakened. In the case of this adventure, Abyssal can sense this weakness, even from the 663rd layer of the Abyss. And, while it may not begin immediately, Abyssal will begin sending armies to assault Gaping Maw. These attacks will quickly grow in power, and if Abyssal manages to depose the Prince of Demons and reclaim his crown, it is said that the very nature of the Abyss will change. The tanar'ri, once plentiful and potent, would be forced into hiding as the Abyss itself begins to disgorge new Oberith armies. This possible adventure plot leads to the ascending Oberith plague spreading across the planes, traveling through portals and into the astral plane. Striking hardest at the celestial Eladrin and elemental planes in revenge for the Oberith's earlier defeat at their hands. And finally, there is the matter of Demogorgon himself. Even if the player characters manage the near impossible and slay him on his home plane, the ex-Prince of Demons will not remain dead for long. Like Abyssal and Orcus before him, it's only a matter of time before Demogorgon returns to the Abyss. Whether grown from the shell of a surviving aspect, resurrected by a loyal and powerful minion, or even spontaneously reformed by the Abyss itself. and once his strength returns, it's not hard to predict who tops his list for revenge. And that is everything when it comes to the title Prince of Demons. Finally, there are 2 tips from Fiendish Codex 1, Hordes of the Abyss, for Dungeon Masters in regards to Demon Lords. Number 1. Characters are most likely to face a Demon Lord on its home layer of the Abyss. Here, the Demon Lord should possess an inherent tactical advantage, because its layer should contain environmental hazards that are troublesome or outright hostile to interlopers. Number 2. A Demon Lord should never be encountered alone. Demons abound on the Abyss, and Demon Lords tend to surround themselves with powerful minions and consorts. And there we have it. That is all the information on the Lords of the Abyss. But more than that, this video marks the completion of my mini-series covering everything about demons. If you haven't seen the other videos yet, consider checking out the playlist. And if you've enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like or subscribing to support the channel. Seriously, this project took me like 9-ish months and I am very tired. So, if you've enjoyed it, please let me know. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!